Good morning once again, everyone. Today we're going to continue our discussion on forecasting financial statements. So far, what we have done was to learn how to forecast the sales account. We used four methods. We used the naive forecast. We also learned how to predict the sales using the average growth rate. And then we also learned how to use the CAGR, the compound annual growth rate, and the regression method. So these were the forecasts for 2022, and there are differences in values. So the naive forecast just uses the previous year's value. And then what we did with the average growth rate was to get the year-on-year average growth rate and then get the average of all the growth rates. We also computed for the CAGR and also the regression. I tasked you guys to do the same for the cost of goods sold. We're not going to discuss that anymore because it's just similar to the one that we did for sales. Okay. Now, here, when we regressed sales against time, so we were using the time as our predictor. This is what we call a time series. So we tried to predict your sales using time as our predictor variable. And we can see here that there seems to be a relationship between time and your sales. Now, we can also use in this case, we want to use the sales as a predictor of cost of goods sold. So we are asked here to do 5 things. Number 1, plot sales and cost of goods sold. And when we plotted sales and cost of goods sold, we can see here that there is really a strong relationship between sales as your independent variable. It's what we will be using as a predictor of cost of goods sold. And the plot tells us that indeed sales as a predictor could be used to describe your cost of goods sold. And the equation is 0.8583 times sales minus 63,681. We can use the regression data analysis tool pack in Excel to develop this linear relationship. So why don't we quickly do that? So we go to data. And then we have here data analysis, just like what we did last time. And then we use, in the analysis tools, we use regression there. Okay, our input Y range will be our cost of goods sold. This is our dependent variable. So we include the label. Okay, and also for the sales, we include the label. And then we click this one, labels. And then we will not study the residuals. Okay, we'll just go to the output itself, output. Let me put the output here in O1. Okay, and then okay. Right. So this is our regression output. Okay, we can see here 99.829. Okay, that's our R squared. Okay, so first question is there a relationship between sales and cost of goods sold, or is the relationship statistically significant? We can see that here. Okay, the slope for sales is 0.8582683. And then we said that we can determine if the relationship between your predictor and your response variable is statistically significant by looking at the p-value. Here it indicates that the p-value is it's e to the -5, which means 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 zeros and then type 3. Okay, 0, 1, 1. So this is your p-value, and we compare that with the level of significance that's most often used. It's 0.05. Okay, and then since the p-value is way less than your level of significance alpha, then we conclude that sales is a significant predictor of your cost of goods sold. Okay, so there's a strong reason to believe that sales could significantly predict our cost of goods sold. For the intercept, okay, we see that this is not statistically significant, but nevertheless, we still use it in our model in order to predict sales. So our model is this one, okay, 0.8583, which is the slope, multiplied by sales, and then subtract, add the intercept, which is a negative here, then that will define your cost of goods sold. So we were able to establish a relationship between sales and cost of goods sold, and we can use this to predict your cost of goods sold. Okay, what does R squared in the output mean? This one, 99.83%. It means that your independent variable sales, okay, can predict 99.83% of the variation of the variability of your dependent variable. So that's pretty high, okay? Pretty high R squared, which means your sales is a good predictor of your cost of goods sold. Okay, so now we want to predict cost of goods sold for 2022, 2023, and 2024. But in predicting cost of goods sold for these years, we need to identify what's the value of sales. Kasi guys, unlike yung previous problem natin, we were predicting cost of goods sold using the year. Ito, we're predicting cost of goods sold using sales. Okay, so in order to predict cost of goods sold, we have to know the value of sales. Okay, so let's just use the predicted value of sales here. Okay, di ba ito? Yun ang predicted value ng sales natin for 2022. Let's copy this down. Okay, so we're going to predict the value of cost of goods sold if sales is 4.3 million, etc. Okay? Okay, by the way, before we go there, what's the meaning of 0.8583? Okay, ito yung marginal impact ng sales on cost of goods sold. Marginal, which means that for every 1 peso of sales, for every 1 peso increase on sales, there's a corresponding 85 centavos, 0.8583 pesos increase in your cost of goods sold. So it's a positive relationship. No? Pag bumaba yung sales ng 1 peso, cost of goods sold will decrease by 0.8583. So that's what this means. Okay. If sales increases by 10 pesos, then cost of goods sold will increase by 8.588. Multiply this by 10, 8.583. Okay, so that's what that means. Now the intercept here means that that's the value of your cost of goods sold when sales is equal to 0. Okay, but we said that that does not have a physical significance, no? Kasi yung model natin was created with a minimum value of sales around 1.9, tapos maximum around 3 million something. No? Okay, so yung X is equal to 0, wala yun sa relevant range natin. It doesn't make sense to predict your cost of goods sold using X is equal to 0 kasi masyadong malayo siya dun sa relevant range. Okay, so all right, so let's now predict our cost of goods sold. We can use the trend function or we can use the forecast.linear. Let's use the trend function. Okay. Our known Y's, ano ba yung known Y's natin? Will be your cost of goods sold. Diba? Sa Y natin guys, yung dependent variable natin is your cost of goods sold. Fix natin yung row kasi ikakopy natin to pababa. No? Tama? Known X's natin will be sales. Okay. Again, fix the row. Comma. And then what is our new X? This is our new X. There. Okay, so this is just This is just another application of what we learned last time using the trend function. Okay, so if the sales is 4.3 million, then we expect cost of goods sold to be 3.626 million. Okay, copy this down. Okay, so these are your corresponding cost of goods sold based on sales equal to this one. Okay, if you get the difference between cost of goods sold 2023 and 2022, we get 450,799. Okay, question, where did this come from? 450,799. Di ba ang sabi natin ang marginal impact ni sales is 0.8583? Bakit 450,799 dito? Okay, anyone guys? Who can explain this? Bakit Akala ko yung for every increase in sales, there's a corresponding 8583 increase in cost of goods sold. Bakit to 450,799? Anyone can explain this? Would like to volunteer, guys? Para hindi yata nagtali si 0.8583, no? Anyone would like to venture a guess? Okay, let me explain it further, guys. Okay, I add one here, guys. No? Nagdagdag ako ng one dito sa previous sales na to. Okay, what will be our predicted cost of goods sold and how much will be the difference? Okay, tingnan nyo to, guys. Okay, so what I did was to add 1 peso here from the figure above. I added 1 peso and then I computed for the cost of goods sold. Okay, hindi natin masyadong nakikita yung difference, guys, kasi naka-round off tayo, no? But if I increase that, okay, you'll see the difference, no? And then what's the difference between your cost of goods sold here at saka here? It's 0.8583. Ayun yun, no? That's it. Now why, guys? Bakit dito hindi siya nag-appear? Kasi yung change dito ng sales it's not 1. Ano ba yung difference ng sales natin dito? So let me get the difference. This minus this. Okay. So the increase in sales here, increase in sales between 2023 and 2022 is 525,245. The increase between 2024 and 23 is ganun din 525,245. Pero ito, the increase between this sales and this sales is just 1. So the increase in cost of goods sold is this one. Yun yung 8583. Yun yung slope, no? Okay, so that's what this means. For every 1 peso increase in sales, may corresponding 8583 increase in cost of goods sold. Yun, di ba? Nag-increase ako dito ng isa. Nag-increase ako ng 1 peso. Ito, guys, yung increase dito is for 525,245. So hindi 1 peso yan, ha? So if you're going to compute for the change in the cost of goods sold, it will be this amount of pesos na in-increase multiplied by the slope. This is the slope, di ba? Ito. Yun ang slope natin. And you'll get yun, yung 450,799. Okay? Sorry. Dapat finix ko to. I should have fixed this. Okay. Done, guys. Okay, so I hope that's clear, guys. I'm just elaborating on this 8583, no? Yung 8583 na to, this is the marginal effect of sales on your cost of goods sold. For every 1 peso increase in sales, there's a corresponding 0.8583 increase in your cost of goods sold. And we saw that here, no? Yung 53549, dinagdagan ko ng piso. Okay? So nung predict natin si cost of goods sold, ito siya. Ilan yung increase from here to here? It's 0.8583. Okay? Correct, no? Tama. So binago natin yung sales ng 1 peso, nag-increase si cost of goods sold by 8583. That's the meaning of the marginal effect, and that's statistically significant. Okay, so that answers question number letter D and letter E. Predict the next 3 years of cost of goods sold using sales. Okay, so na-predict na natin. All right, any questions guys with this? Okay, pakichat na lang please kung clear so far, kung yes. Yes means that I'll proceed further. Response naman please guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask questions. Okay, sana maka 50% response man lang tayo guys. I'm just getting 2 responses from the class. It's a very, very low turnout of responses. Waiting for your response guys. Kung may questions, if you want a formula to be shown guys, kasi hindi nyo nasundan, please just chat. We will address your questions. So I don't want to move guys to the forecasting without you understanding this. Formula ng ano, Kayla? Formula of what? Kayla, which formula, please? Cost of goods sold. This one? Finorcast lang natin si cost of goods sold. We use the trend function. Sa trend function, ang mga parameters dyan, ano yung known Y's natin? Yung Y yung dependent variable natin. Yun yung cost of goods sold. Yun ang pinipredict natin. Si X is your independent variable, si sales. So in other words, we're using sales in order to predict cost of goods sold. Hindi naman pwedeng reverse. No? Hindi natin pwedeng gamitin si cost of goods sold para i-predict si sales. Okay? Did that answer your question? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any other questions, guys? Thank you for that question, Kayla. I appreciate you, your honesty. I appreciate you asking the question. Okay, meron pa ba, guys? May question pa? Okay. All right. So, no more questions. Let's now move on to our main lesson for today, which is forecasting the income statement and the balance sheet. So we're given, guys, the income statement of Pikachu Products Incorporated. Ito yung income statement natin for 2021 and 2020. Given din sa atin yung balance sheet. So the objective here is to be able to predict or to create a forecast for 2022. No? Alam natin si 2021, 2020. So kailangan natin mag-forecast ng financial statements for 2022. And then I leave you guys to create the statement of cash flows. Kasi kung alam nyo na yung 2022 at saka 2021 of figures, then you should be able to create the statement of cash flows for 2022. Okay, the method that we're going to use is a very popular method. It's called the percentage of sales method. Bakit percentage of sales method, guys? Because there are some reasons why this is the one of the most favorite method to. Okay, number one, this percentage of sales method is very easy to apply. Madali siya, napakasimple ng method na to. Okay, also, it's logical because many of the accounts in your income statement and in your balance sheet are related to sales. Okay, for example, si cost of goods sold, di ba napakita natin kanina? Grabe yung relationship ni cost of goods sold at saka ni sales. Okay, so it makes sense, guys, to use the percentage of sales method kasi pwede natin magamit yung relationship ni cost of goods sold at saka ni sales para i-predict si cost of goods sold. Okay, once we have predicted sales, then we can estimate or forecast also cost of goods sold. There are other expenses that might be related, no? Selling expenses, pwedeng related yan sa sales. And also in the balance sheet accounts, many of the accounts here generally move together with sales. Kunyari, accounts receivable. Diba, it makes sense that if sales increases, accounts receivable also increases. And so does inventory. Eh minsan yung si plant and equipment pwede rin. Kasi pag may targeted na malaki yung sales, increase in sales, then chances are management might deem it important to also increase or invest in property, plant, and equipment. Okay? So ganun din si accounts payable, no? And other items. Okay? May mga iba lang talaga na siguro masasabi natin hindi siya dependent dun sa sales. Kunyari, yung long-term debt. Okay, later on I'll explain. Also common stock, pwedeng hindi siya related to sales, no? Retained earnings, hindi rin, no? Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to use a percentage of sales method in order to craft or create our forecasted income statement, our pro forma. Sorry, may typographical ano lang dito. This should be small I, and this should be, okay, may space dapat. Pro forma income statement, okay? And the figures here are in thousands. Okay. Now, first things first, di ba, predict natin yung sales natin using the naive, average growth rate, CAGR, and regression method. These values, guys, I just got this from yung forecasting natin. No? Okay? So I just linked this to our values here sa forecasting. Here. For example, yung naive natin, ito. Okay, nakalink lang dito yan. No? Okay. Now, what we want to do here is that we want to create a model where we can do scenario analysis. No? Remember before, okay, yung scenario analysis natin, but when we go to data, and then what if analysis, tapos ito yung scenario manager natin. So what's the use of this? What we're going to do is we're going to come up with forecast for income statement and balance sheet using different levels of sales. So what if sales is 3850? Magiging ano yung ano natin, yung forecasted financial statement? What if it's based on the average growth rate? So ito, no? What if it's CAGR? What if it's regression? So depende, guys, kung ano yung forecasted value natin sa sales, magbabago din yung financial statements natin, forecasted financial statements natin. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create an index, no? So pag ang sales 3850, then we'll just, since this is the smallest value, gagawin natin index yan equal to 1. So we use this 3850 divided by 3850 itself, okay? And then I'll fix the row, Control Enter, and then I'll copy this down. Okay, so what does this mean? It means that your average growth rate is 1.2030 greater than your naive. This means that your CAGR is 1.1946 rounded off to the 4 decimal places greater than naive, okay, etc. So ginawa natin yung naive natin equal to 1. Okay, and later when we do scenario analysis, ililink natin siya dito. Okay, what do I mean by that? Example, let's create what if analysis. Okay. Okay, wait, before I do that, mag-create muna tayo dito ng formula sa sales natin. So ang sales natin, ililink natin dito sa cell na to. Okay? This one, and then we multiply that by, ito na lang, 3850. No? Ito yung base natin. Okay, so this was the sales of the previous year. Okay, kaya nga yung naive forecast, guys, pareho lang, 3850. Okay, so when we do this, so this is now your 11692, ibig sabihin ito yung regression. But if I change this, kunyari 1.0000, this now changes to, diba? Ito na yung naive. No? So ang papagawin natin dito kay Excel, papabaguhin natin to so that it will represent the average growth rate, the CAGR, the regression, etc., or the naive. So how do we do that? If you recall, guys, yung what if analysis natin, scenario manager, diba? Scenario manager, and then we'll create one, add. Okay. let's make the scenario, yung unang scenario, naive. Naive ang tawag natin. Ang changing cell natin will be yan, N5. Dito natin ililink. So ang sasabihin natin kay Excel, baguhin niya to. Okay? Gawin niyang 1, gawin niyang 1.2030. Depende dun sa scenario natin. So pag naive guys, pag naive, ang gagawin natin na factor niyan, ilan? Yan, 1.0000. Diba? Yan yung naive. No? So okay. Okay, so may naive na tayo dito, di ba? Then let's ask Excel to show it. Show. So ginawa niyang 1 to, and then yung sales natin 3850 nga. Okay, so if we add, for example, okay, let's do this, average GR. Let's name it average growth rate. Okay, and 5 then, okay. And what value? 1.2030. Okay, so we're creating a scenario where the sales is 1.2030 times 3850. Okay, okay. So meron na tayong average GR dito. O sige, i-show natin to ha. Show natin si average GR. Show. Okay, what happened guys? O tingnan natin yung sales natin. 4631.55 na. Diba? Tapos ito guys, ginawa niyang 1.2032 kasi sabi mo average growth rate eh. Okay? Alright, and then this one is this amount, 1.2030 times yung 3850 natin. One last guys, one last. Okay, let's call it CAGR. CAGR. Okay. Okay, and then this is 1.1946. Okay, 1.1946. Yan, may CAGR tayo dito. And then if we ask Excel to show it, magiging 1. Kasi CAGR to, no? Magiging 1.1946 to. Mababago din to. Okay, kasi itong value ng sales natin nakalink dito sa N5 na to. So show there, 4599.21, which is your CAGR. Okay? All right, close ko na muna to at least, and then you do that guys, okay, para makita nyo kung ano mangyayari sa ano natin sa forecasted na financial statements if the sales changes. So that's a very good way to do sensitivity analysis, no? Making use of our scenario manager. Okay, so let's now move on. Ako, mukhang medyo kakapusin tayo sa oras guys. Now, magre-request lang ako please kung pwede, if ever medyo kapusin tayo, just a 5-minute extension no, dun sa dulo. Kasi ganun din na experience ko dun sa kabilang section. Pero we need really to complete this already kasi mabibitin tayo kung hindi pa natin tapusin to. No? Okay, so percentage of sales method, everything will be related to sales. Okay, so maggagawa muna tayo ng index. So parang yung common size statement natin to, naalala nyo dati. So for 2021, sales will be divided by sales. And then if you fix lang natin to, fix the row. Okay? Bakit sales divided by sales? Para pag kinapin natin itong formula na to, it will be, kunyari, cost of goods sold divided by sales, selling expense divided by sales, etc. Everything is divided by sales. Okay? Now, para gawin lang natin whole number, gawing percentage na times 100. Gawin lang natin times 100. Okay. Of course, this is 100 kasi sales divided by sales is 100. Then copy natin to the right to. So 2020, no? Okay. So this one is sales of 2020 divided by sales of 2020. Okay. So what we're going to do now is, okay, gagawin natin guys, ang gagamitin natin na percentage will be the average. Pwede natin gamitin si 2021, pwede natin gamitin si 2020, pero usually ang ginagamit, so we do the average ng ratio ng 2021 at saka 2020. Of course, we'll still get 100 here. Okay. Now, we're going to copy the formula sa lahat na to, no? Now, we will not drag it down kasi pag drag down natin to, mawawala yung format natin. So in order to copy the formula and yet maintain the formatting, gawin natin ganito, no? Highlight this, okay? Highlight that, Control C, kakopy natin, no? And then highlight everything here para andun pa rin yung mga format niya, okay? Right click, then we will just copy the formulas there. Yun. So, kinapin niya yung formula, tingnan nyo, no? Okay. So that's cost of goods sold divided by sales pa rin. No? Ito, cost of goods sold for 2020 divided by sales. So okay yung formula natin. Okay, so let me pause for a while, okay, and give you time to do it and ask if you have any questions about it. Okay, go. Let me just flash the formula here. And if you were able to get the average, guys, for the whole, okay, kindly chat. Otherwise, kung may mga questions kayo, guys, feel free to ask questions. We'll appreciate questions. Okay, paki-chat naman please kung nakasunod tayo. Okay, good. Okay, let's wait for a few more seconds for the others. Only 4 have given the response. I hope at least maka 10 above tayo, no? Kasi 4 pa lang yung nag-respond. I hope the majority of the class are able to follow kasi kung konti lang, guys, then okay, good. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. All right. So, may option tayo. Pwede natin gamitin yung yung kunyari cost of goods sold. Gusto niyo bang gamitin yung 2021? Okay. What does this mean? To predict your cost of goods sold for 2022, gagamitin natin tong figure na to, 84.4% of your sales. Of your sales for 2022. Okay? Or gusto ba natin tong 2020 or just the average? So we can just use the average, no? Para to lessen the noise. Ibig sabihin lessen the noise kasi baka may mga extraordinary events na nangyari sa 2021. Okay, kunyari ito 8.6 dito yung selling and general expenses, dito 7. Okay, so bakit kaya biglang tumaas dito? Baka may mga extraordinary events na nangyayari noong 2021. So just to temper it off, i-average na lang natin siya sa 2020. That's why we'll be using 7.8. Okay? Okay, take note guys, yung sales natin dito dun sa dun sa CAGR yan. Let's just para pare-pareho tayo, let's just use regression muna, 1169. So make this guys 1.1169 para pare-pareho tayo dito. So 4.3 dapat tayo dito, no? Okay. Now, para mas yung formula natin, let's give this a name, no? Yung sales natin. I'm going to give this a name. Let's call it sales, forecast sales of 2022. Okay? There. Sales 2022. Okay. So sales of 2022 natin to. Okay, now, how do we now compute for the cost of goods sold? Is cost of goods sold related to sales? Can we use the percentage of sales method? Okay. Yes, definitely, guys. We were able to show that cost of goods sold is indeed very much related to sales. No? So, anong gagamitin natin na relationship? We can use this, 83.9. So, ibig sabihin nito, 83 cost of goods sold on the average for the past 2 years is 83.9% of your sales. Okay, so let's compute now. So your cost of goods sold will be, okay, guys, yung factor natin, multiply that by yung sales natin ng 2022, diba? Yung sales natin ng 2022 is this one. Okay? Now since ginawa natin tong whole number times 100, i-divide din natin to ng 100 para pareho yung mga figures natin. No? Okay, and then enter. So this is our forecasted cost of goods sold using 83.9%. So gagamitin natin tong averages, no? Dun sa in order to predict your account. Okay, so let me flash the formula for a bit. We gave the name Sales 2022 para mas madaling mas kita natin kagad kung tama. And if we copy that formula, it will reflect Sales 2022. We don't need to fix. Okay. All right. So knowing the cost of goods sold, we can now compute for the gross profit. The gross profit is just your sales minus your cost of goods sold. There, 690. Okay? Paki-check nga please kung so far naka 690 tayo. Umabot ba kayo sa 690?
Sir, pwede pa flash po ulit ng formula for gross profit po?
Minus lang yung sales.
Okay
Sales
po.
minus the cost of goods sold. Okay? Okay, any other questions? None? Okay. So next item guys, selling and general administrative expenses. Now itong account na to, pinagsama kasi yung selling at saka general and administrative expenses. Normally, si selling, medyo related kay sales yan. Pero si G&A, general and admin expenses, maybe hindi siya related kay sales. Kasi kunyari, ang admin, kunyari, sweldo ng mga accounting staff. Diba, ang sweldo naman ng accounting staff, hindi naman related sa sales yun. Diba? Walang kinalaman yun. Sweldo ng HR, wala rin kinalaman yun. Okay? So, yung G&A, general and admin expense, maybe hindi siya related kay sales. Si selling pwede, no? But for this purpose, for this activity, we will just use, let's just use the 7.8, no? 7.8, tingnan nyo, medyo nag-vary siya, no? 8.6, 7.0. We'll just use the 7.8 in order to predict our selling and administrative expense. So we can use the cost of goods sold formula kasi dito, di ba? We link it to sales, okay, using the percentage of sales method. So we can copy this formula. Ito yung kainaman guys ng gantong method, no? Control C, and then again guys, formula lang, no? Formula. So that hindi nababago yung formatting kasi finormat ko na to, no? Para hindi na di-destroy yung formatting. Otherwise guys, kunyari pag kinopy down natin yan, mababago yung formatting natin and then we will have to redo the format. Okay, next. Fixed expenses, as the name suggests, fixed yan, no? So notice the trend, 100, 100. So we'll just assume that it will still be 100 for 2022. Okay? So with that, guys, we can now compute for the EBITDA. It's your gross profit minus the sum of your selling and fixed expense. Okay, pause muna ako dyan, guys. Okay? So I hope you reach this far sa EBITDA. And I'm getting, control enter, 2561. Okay, dagdagan natin 2 decimal places para pareho din sa iba. Okay, paki-ano nga guys, paki-chat kung umabot kayo dito sa EBITDA. Chat please kung yes. Daming absent talaga ngayon, no? Out of 30, 32, 15 only. Tapos yung iba nawawala pa, I think, sa internet connection. Okay, thank you so much for your responses. Thank you. Okay, good. All right. So depreciation expense, paano to? Do we use the percentage of sales method? Okay, so suspend muna natin guys yung depreciation expense kasi yung depreciation expense, alam naman natin na related yan sa plant and equipment, no? So there's an additional information here about plant and equipment. Mag-i-invest daw ng 50. So let's just leave that for a while, okay? Gawin ko lang red to. It means that hindi pa natin na fill up to, no? So let's just leave that for a while. Mamaya babalikan natin yan pagpunta natin sa balance sheet. So your EBIT will now be your EBITDA less your depreciation expense. Of course, hindi pa to correct value guys kasi wala pang laman tong depreciation expense natin. Okay, how about interest expense? Okay, do we use this? Okay, 2, 1.8, 1.9. Although guys, ang interest expense could be related to sales, okay? But pwedeng hindi rin siyang related, no? Kasi ang interest expense is a function of saan ba nanggagaling yan? Yung mga utang yan na may nagke-carry ng financing cost, no? Ng financing charges. Okay, so let's take a look. 76 nung 2021. Okay, ano nga ba yung source ng interest expense dito? So we have to look at liabilities, no? Ano sa liabilities natin ang interest bearing? Hindi naman si accounts payable. Ito, si short-term notes payable. Other current liabilities mukhang hindi naman. At saka si long-term debt, yes. So dalawa, no? 225 at saka 424.61. Sila yung dahilan kung bakit may interest expense. Okay, so let's first compute for the average cost, no? Average rate ng interest expense. Although guys, technically, theoretically, dapat mas mahal si long-term debt kaysa kay notes payable. Mas mahal si long-term debt. Diba? The principle of risk and return. Kung mas mahaba yung term ng utang, mas malaki yung rate nun. Kasi mas malaki yung risk na sinushoulder ng lender. No? Okay, so let's compute for the rate, average rate. So that's equal to 76 yung interest divided by, isum natin, magkano ba yung total ng short-term notes payable natin at saka ng long-term debt natin. Okay? There. Alright, so kinuha natin yung interest rate. So it's around 11.7%, no? 11.7%. Okay, so what we can do, usually naman guys, kung may existing pa na interest rate, na loan, syempre yung pa rin yung rate na gagamitin, no, for the next year. Okay, so let's assume that this is the interest rate. Okay, kaso nga lang wala pa tayong figure ng 2022 na short-term notes payable at saka long-term debt. However, guys, pwede natin ilagay yung formula dito, no? So it's equal to, okay, lagyan natin ng interest rate na name to. I'm going to call this interest rate. Interest rate. Okay. And then also yung tax, 40%. Okay. Apologies guys. Ngayon kasi ang current rate, 30%. No? Pero hindi ko kasi nabago siya. Nagamit ko dito yan sa taxes dito. Kaya just to be uniform, ito na lang ilalagay natin. No? So we call it tax rate. Okay, so I gave it a name, tax rate. This one. I also gave this the name interest rate. Okay, pause muna ako guys. I-flash ko lang yung interest rate na formula. Okay, kasi baka hindi na kayo nakakasunod. No? Okay, and I would appreciate guys any feedback from you kung nakasunod kayo dun sa interest rate. Paki-chat naman please kung yes. And so far, umabot na kayo dito sa interest rate. Thank you. The rest, guys? Okay. All right. So thank you so much, guys, for your responses. Okay. Now we can compute for the interest expense. It's equal to, okay, yung sum, just like what we did here, sum ng short-term notes payable natin for 2022 and your long-term debt. So isa-sum din natin siya and i-multiply natin ng interest rate. Okay. This one, we gave this a name. So it's the sum of your short-term notes payable and your long-term debt. Multiply that by the interest rate. That will give us your interest expense for 2022. Okay. Now, of course, guys, since wala pang values yung natin, yung short-term notes payable at saka long-term debt, wala pang value siya, then magiging zero pa lang yan. Okay? But later on, pag nalagyan na natin ng values to, then automatically, guys, magre-reflect na dito yan. Therefore, our earnings before tax is just subtract EBIT minus interest, and then taxes is, okay, our earnings before tax, multiply that by the tax rate. Okay, no? Multiply natin by the tax rate, control enter. Okay, and then our net income after tax is just the difference between this one minus our taxes. So 1533, 153.66. Okay. Feedback please guys if you got this. 153.66. Siyempre, hindi pa yan yung final figure kasi wala pa tayong depreciation dyan, wala pa rin tayong interest expense.
Sir, can you repeat po?
Which one?
So,
Which one?
earnings before tax po.
Earnings before tax, i-minus lang natin yung ano. EBIT minus interest expense. Basic na income statement, no? EBIT less interest, you have your earnings before tax.
Sir, tas yung taxes din po.
Sorry?
Yung taxes din po.
Taxes will now be your earnings before tax, multiplied that by the tax rate. Kaya
Okay.
kaya tayo nagka-tax rate dito kasi binigyan natin ng pangalan to, no? Pero kung hindi nyo nabigyan, i-link nyo dito sa tax rate. No? Okay, did that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you po.
Okay, good. Thank you for the question. No? Thank you. And the net income after tax natin, just subtract. Okay, any more questions, guys? I hope you got 153.66. Okay, let's proceed. Now we go to the balance sheet. No? We go to the balance sheet. Now, ganun din, guys, yung balance sheet natin, okay, we're going to link it to sales. Ililink natin siya sa sales. So, ang gagawin natin dito, guys, di ba, ganito din, no? E6 divided by E$6. So lahat ng mga accounts sa balance sheet, i-divide natin ng sales. So we can copy this, copy yung first line na to, kasi this first line will divide everything by sales of 2021 and 2020, and then get the average. So once again, Control C natin to, and then, although wala namang format dito, pero highlight natin dito, highlight everything here. Okay, highlight hanggang dulo. Okay, and then right click, formula. There. Formula. So nakopy natin yung percentage, no? Ang ibig sabihin ng 1.4 for every one tama, 1.4 for every 100 peso sales, meron tayong 1.4 na cash. Okay, so this is the percentage per sales. Tanggalin ko lang itong nakakalitong mga dulo na to, yung mga wala namang ibig sabihin. Okay, let's just leave it at that. Okay, so let's now see, ito yung average. Ang question, gagamitin ba natin si cash and cash equivalents? Gagamitin ba natin percentage of sales, yung average na 1.5 in order to predict cash and cash equivalents? Okay, so ano yan na, if siya, no? Ibig sabihin, pwedeng hindi. Kasi, di ba pag tumataas yung sales, tumataas din yung cash. Assuming na nakokolekta na yung ano, yung either yung receivables or yung cash sales. So there's a logical relationship between your sales and your cash. However, guys, take note that companies do not usually just leave cash as is. Okay, kasi ang cash, guys, that's the yan yung asset na hindi yan mag-earn unless you convert it or transform it into another form of asset. Kunyari, yung cash. Kung cash lang yan na nasa vault ng company, hindi kikita yan. In fact, at the end of the year, kung andun lang siya, nag-decrease nga ng value yan because of inflation. Diba? So ang ginagawa sa cash, it's converted into another asset. Either, kunyari, long-term investment, short-term investment, or equipment, okay, or fixed asset. Kasi yung asset na yon, yung pinag-convertan, guys, that will be the asset that will earn for the company. Okay? Is the company going to have a increased demand in the future? So kailangan ba mag-invest na naman sa bagong equipment? So yung cash, ginagawang equipment, no? Okay? So medyo grain of salt tong yung cash and cash equivalents. No? But nevertheless, guys, gamitin na lang natin siya dito for this exercise. We'll be using the average 1.5 in order to predict our cash equivalents based on sales. Okay, so gamitin natin yung formula dito anywhere here. Kunyari, cost of goods sold. Since remember, cost of goods sold, ginamit natin yan, yung sales para i-predict si cost of goods sold. So copy natin to, Control C, and i-copy natin dito sa cash and cash equivalents, just the formula. There. So if we're going to use projected sales for 2022 as a basis to predict cash, then ito yung magiging cash balance natin, 65.12. Okay, ang formula natin yan, yung average multiplied by sales of 2022 divided by 100. Okay? All right, next, accounts receivable and inventory. Ito definitely, guys, definitely, pasok na pasok to sa percentage of sales method. Kasi si accounts receivable at saka si inventory, they are related to sales. No? So we're going to use in 10.3 at saka 21.3. No? So let's just copy this formula, itong cash and cash equivalents, Control C, and then yung dalawang to, formula. There. Okay, so na-predict natin, guys, si accounts receivable at saka si inventory using the percentage of sales method. Kinapi lang natin yung formula dito sa cash. So if you take a look at our formula for accounts receivable, it's the average rate multiplied by sales of 2022 divided by 100. Ganun din kay inventory. J27 times sales 2022 divided by 100. Okay? And then we get our total current assets, which is just the sum of our three elements here. All right. So lagyan lang natin ito ng wala siyang comma. Okay, comma. Okay, pause muna ako. Did you get 1424.55 for your total current assets? Chat please kung yes. Any questions? Feel free to ask questions, guys. Kung formula ba, nakuha niyo ba yung cash and cash equivalents? Nakuha niyo ba si AR? Nakuha niyo ba si inventory? Okay, more responses please. Okay, the reason why I formatted this, guys, kasi yung interest of time, no? Alam ko medyo kakapusin tayo sa oras, kaya pinormat ko na siya. And then we just copy the formula para ma-maintain pa rin yung format, para kitang-kita pa rin natin yung relationship. Okay, so, okay, no questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so how about plant and equipment? Ngayon, minsan guys, pwede rin naman si plant and equipment, pwedeng related siya sa sales. If that's the case, then gagamitin natin tong 14, no? So if we copy this, Control C, Control V. So using percentage of sales, ito sana yung forecast natin, 601.90. Okay, however, we have information that the company would be investing 50 million, no, for next year. So meron tayong information na to. Okay, therefore, pwede na natin makompute yung plant and equipment. Ito yung at cost, if you recall, no? At cost. So this will now be equal to yung previous natin na plant and equipment, okay, and then plus, i-add natin yung bagong i-invest na PPE, additional property, plant and equipment. Okay, so we now get 577. Okay, because may information tayo nito, no? Yung 15 na to. Okay, otherwise guys, kung walang ganitong information, pwede natin kinuha yung yung 14% of your sales. Okay? Then how about accumulated depreciation? Kasi last year 166.20, so dapat madadagdagan to ngayon. Okay, this one plus the new depreciation expense. Okay, may bagong equipment kasi tayo, no? Okay, given tayo na ang salvage value niya is 2 million and then the life of the equipment is 10. If we use straight line method, guys, simple lang yan. Additional PPE natin minus the salvage value divided by the life of the equipment. Okay, so that makes 48. So mga 4.8 yung annual depreciation. But we can use, guys, pwede rin namang SLN function. So may SLN sa Excel, returns the straight line depreciation of an asset for one period. Okay, so at cost natin 50, comma, ang salvage value is 2, comma, ang life ng asset is 10. Okay, so that's 4.8%. Change natin yung format, control 1, make it a number. No? Decimal places na lang. Okay, 4.8. So this is now the depreciation that related to our additional property, plant, and equipment. Okay, so ang depreciation natin, guys, will now be the sum. I-add natin yung previous accumulated depreciation natin at saka yung additional na 4.8. Okay, so that will now be our accumulated depreciation. Okay, control enter. Okay, it's 171. Okay, therefore, we can now get the net fixed asset that's equal to plant and equipment at cost minus the accumulated depreciation. Yeah. Ito yung net fixed assets natin. Therefore, our total assets is equal to current assets, comma, net fixed assets. Pause muna ako dyan, guys. Feel free to ask questions. Okay, I'm getting 1830.55. Okay, I'll be requesting your chat, guys, kung okay, kung yes, you were able to follow hanggang fixed total assets. Paki-chat please kung yes, or if you have questions, feel free, guys, to ask your question. Okay, dadalawa pa lang, guys, nagre-respond. Formula for plant and equipment at cost. Okay. Equipment. Okay, sige. Let me flash the equipment at cost. Yung equipment at cost, guys, is just okay, yung previous na equipment plus yung additional. Kasi pag sinabing at cost, ano yan, yung i-carry natin yung simula nung binili at cost siya. So meron tayong 527, pas dadagdagan natin ng 15, no? Okay, did that answer your question? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kenji. Okay, any other questions, guys? So depreciation, intindihan ba to? Straight line, cost, salvage value, life of the equipment. Okay, kindly chat please kung if I may proceed. Okay, thank you. All right. So we go back first to our depreciation. Pwede na natin fill up to, no? Okay. So since straight line yung depreciation natin, so every year yung equipment natin merong allocation ng depreciation. Okay, so we will assume na yung 20 na to, pareho pa rin yan sa ano, di ba? If you recall from your accounting, di ba, ang depreciation, kunyari 10 per year. So 10, 10, 10, 10, 10 yan every year. So dito, may 20 tayo, okay? And then we will have to add yung 20, at saka yung additional na depreciation because of the new equipment, which is 4.8. Yan. Diba? Kasi bumili ng bagong equipment, tapos yung annual depreciation ito, 4.8. So, yung depreciation from the old, yung mga other equipment na 20, plus yung bagong 4.8, yun ang magiging depreciation natin for 2022. Yan. Okay, so control enter. So this should now be 24.8. Okay, so nakita nyo nagbago yung net income after tax. No? All right. So clear tayo so far, guys, depreciation expense. Okay, good. Okay, 24.8 na to. Once again, i-flush ko itong formula na to. So this is just your previous depreciation expense, and then in-add natin, guys, yung panibagong annual depreciation natin. Okay? All right. So sa income statement natin, isa na lang wala, ito, interest expense. Wala pa kasi yung short-term notes payable natin at saka long-term debt, which we're now going to fill up. Okay. Now we go to liabilities and shareholders' equity. Okay. Now before I discuss that, meron dalawang klaseng Generally, guys, ang financing pwedeng spontaneous financing at saka yung discretionary financing. Anong difference ng dalawa? Pag spontaneous, guys, as the name suggests, it's generated from the ordinary course of business. Yung spontaneous. Kunyari, accounts payable, guys. Paano ba na-generate si accounts payable? It's because the company buys raw materials, no? And then the company is given, let's say, terms or credit limits, no? Kaya nagkakaroon ng financing. Hindi pa niya kagad binabayaran, babayaran pa niya, kunyari, 1 month after. So that's called financing, that's called spontaneous financing. Kasi nanggagaling yun dun sa ordinary course of the operations or of the business. Okay? Meron ding discretionary financing. Yung discretionary financing, discretion niya ng top management. So it does not occur on the ordinary course of business. Example, long-term debt, guys. Ang long-term debt, ang nagde-decide yan, management, no? Not necessarily operations. Finance and management, sila yung nagde-decide yan kung mangutang ba for the long term, no? And that's called discretionary financing. Common stock, guys, discretionary financing yan. Mag-i-issue ba ng panibagong shares of stock? Hindi yan na-generate from sales, no? No. So these are what we call discretionary financing. And it's very important to understand this kasi usually, yung mga discretionary financing, hindi natin pina-forecast yan based on yung sales, no? Si spontaneous financing, pwedeng gamitin natin yung sales para ma-predict o ma-forecast siya. But not necessarily yung discretionary financing. So si long-term debt, ito, 10.2% of sales daw. Yet, normally, hindi natin pinipredict si long-term debt based on its relation to sales. Kasi this will require further analysis or decision by top management. No? So, we will be, let's be conscious of that. Okay, so first, accounts payable. Accounts payable is spontaneous financing. So, pwede natin gamitin tong average ng relation niya kay sales. No? Okay, so let's copy this. Copy na lang natin si accounts receivable, Control C, and then paste the formula. So this is now related to sales of 2022. So itong short-term notes payable, guys, ito 5.8, no? So we may or may not use this to compute for your short-term notes payable, no? Kaso guys, ang gagawin na lang natin, what we're going to do is, kasi depende din yan, no? Dapat may added information tayo. Kasi short-term notes payable, paano kung may nagmamature na nito, no? Tapos next year, fully paid na to. So since wala tayong ganung information, we will just assume that the level of short-term notes payable is just the same as the previous year. Okay? So hindi natin gagamitin si percentage of sales method. We'll just use that parang na-forecast lang to, no? Okay, so si other current liabilities naman, wala namang information about whether it's spontaneous or discretionary, but we can lump it under, we can consider it as spontaneous na lang. So copy natin to, Control-C, and then yung formula natin. Okay. Oh, malapit na mag-time. All right. So our total current liabilities will just be the sum of your current liabilities. Okay, 577.44. Okay guys, paki-chat naman please kung nakasunod dito sa liabilities natin dito. Sa current liabilities. Kindly chat please. Dapat pala linalagay ko dito yung formula text para makikita nyo kagad. No? Okay, good. All right. How about long-term debt, guys? So si long-term debt, no? Again, kasi discretionary financing yan, we will just assume that it's the same as the previous year. No? Okay, so therefore our total liabilities is simply the sum of your current and your long-term debt. Common stock, ganun din guys, discretionary financing to, no? We will not assume that there will be a change in your common equity. Okay, retained earnings guys, paano to? Okay, if we go up guys, nakita nyo nagkaroon na tayong interest expense dito, no? And pareho lang siya ng previous year kasi we just assume that the short-term notes payable and your long-term debt were the same as the previous year. That's why we have the same interest expense. Hopefully guys, 93.80 na yung net income after tax dito. Okay, so how do we compute now for the retained earnings? Retained earnings is equal to the previous retained earnings, and then we add, no? We add yung addition to retained earnings. Dito guys, net income after tax, tapos walang dividends, no? Kung may dividends sana, tapos i-subtract natin siya to net income after tax, yung result na yon, yun ang papasok natin sa retained earnings. But since there are no dividends, yung addition to retained earnings will be your net income after tax. Yun. So lahat ng net income after tax ipo-flow back to retained earnings. Okay? There you go. Okay, so it's just adding your previous retained earnings plus your net income after tax. Therefore, our total shareholders' equity will be the sum of your common stock and your retained earnings. Sum lang nila. Therefore, ang total liabilities and equity natin is total liabilities at saka total shareholders' equity. There. Okay, good. Yan, para dapat ginawa ko pala kanina to para kita nyo kaagad yung formula. Okay, so yes, ibig sabihin guys, talaga magre-request ako guys ng ano. Nagre-request ako ng 5-minute extension, 5 to 6-minute extension. I hope you don't mind guys, but if you need to go, guys, it's okay. You may go. I'll just keep on recording kasi para matapos natin to, yung lesson na to. Okay, any questions guys? May napansin ba kayo dito sa balance sheet natin? May napansin kayo sa balance sheet natin guys? Anyone? Would anyone like to comment about what's weird? What's weird about our balance sheet?
Sir,
Yes?
hindi po balance.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Charles. Sino ba yan? Sorry.
Anton po.
Anton, sorry. Sorry, nakita kong pangalan si Charles. Anton, thank you so much. You're correct. Guys, may problema tayo. Hindi balance sheet to, no? 1830.55, 1781.22. Okay? So hindi siya balance. Charles, thank you. Okay, so we have a problem, no? Hindi balance siya. So we need to compute, guys, for the difference. Okay? So usually, guys, pag nag-i-increase yung sales, usually, Kasi ito yung sales natin, ano? 4.3. Of course, we can change that depending on this one. Kunyari guys, gawin natin itong 1.1946. Okay. So mababago ngayon yung income statement natin at saka balance sheet natin. It will change. Okay? Ito naging 1929, ito naging 1820. Okay, so you see how dynamic our model is. Babalik ko lang dun sa dati, 1.1169 para pare-pareho tayo. Okay. Now, because of the increase in sales, ano nangyari? You need to have this level of assets. Kailangan tong assets na to para ma-support yung forecasted sales natin. Okay, we need this level of assets, AR, inventory, etc. Now, kailangan din yung financing, guys. Kailangan masuportahan din tong assets natin. Itong 1830, but we have a problem because hindi sufficient yung yung financing. No? Maybe because we were assuming that okay lang yung level ng natin ng notes payable at saka ng long-term debt. So there are different ways to do this. Ang tawag ng difference niyan, guys, is equal to, let's get the difference. This is called your DFN or discretionary funding needed. Okay? And we will give it a name. Okay? If this amount is greater than 0, ibig sabihin guys, mas malaki yung asset natin. So, ang tawag natin dyan, we'll call it deficit. Ibig sabihin ng deficit guys, kulang yung financing natin. If however, if this one is less than 0, okay, then we call it surplus. Tawagin natin siyang surplus, ibig sabihin, sobra yung financing natin. Otherwise, we call it balanced. Ibig sabihin, okay lang yung asset natin at saka yung liabilities and equity. Okay? So yan, no? There. So we have a deficit. Okay. Now, anong gagawin natin sa deficit? Gagawa tayong assumption dito, no? Assumption in case of deficit, use long-term debt. Okay, kung may deficit guys, pwede tayo mag-assume na mag-i-issue tayo ng common stock or mag-i-issue tayo ng mag-uutang pa tayo. To make it simple guys, gamitin na lang muna natin long-term debt, no? In case may deficit. Ito may deficit tayo. So anong gagamitin natin para mapunuan yung kulang? Okay, ang gagamitin natin guys, guys, it's already time. So I'll be requesting for a 5-minute extension. If you need to leave guys, it's okay. Go ahead. Anyway, naka-record naman to. No? Okay, so ang gawin natin guys, magkano yung natin? Ita-type ko lang siya. 424.61, di ba? 424.61. Okay? And then dadagdagan natin ng 49.34. There. Okay. Therefore, kailangan natin 473.95 yung long-term debt, di ba? Para ma-balance out. I hope you're getting me, guys. Inad ko tong 424 at saka 49.34 kasi ito yung deficit, no? Pag binago ko tong long-term debt, ginawa kong 473.95. Okay, ano nangyari? Okay, now I was expecting dapat mag-zero na to, no? Dapat wala ng deficit kasi dinagdagan na natin yung long-term debt. Kaso guys, hindi ganoon eh. Hindi siya nag-zero out. So ano gagawin ko? Sige nga, 473.95. Dagdagan ko ulit ng 3.46. 3.46. Okay? So dapat ngayon 477.41 na, no? Palitan ko to. 477.41, pinamanual lang natin. Enter. Oh, kulang pa rin. Kulang pa rin. So 477.41 okay, plus 0.24, yun ang kulang. 477.65, gawin ko tong 477.65. Okay. Kulang pa rin guys, no? 0.02. Okay, so what am I saying here guys? When we added on to the long-term debt, bakit hindi siya nagde-deficit kagad ng 0? Ba? Ito 1830.53, no? Ito 1830.55, kulang pa tayo. Now the reason why is because pag dinagdagan natin tong long-term debt, apektado yung income statement. Ito. Di ba yung interest expense natin, okay, this is dependent on your long-term debt, no? So pag binago natin long-term debt, magbabago yung interest expense. In fact, tataas to, mababago yung earnings before tax, mababago yung taxes, mababago yung net income after tax. Pag nabago yung income after tax, mababago yung retained earnings. Kasi yung retained earnings natin, naka-depend dito sa net income after tax. So guys, nagkakaroon ng feedback loop, no? Baguhin mo to, mababago yung income statement, mababago yung balance sheet, hindi na naman balance yan. Okay, so iikot lang tayo ng iikot yan, iikot ng iikot. Siguro mga 30 times, 40 times hanggang mag-zero out yan. So matagal na process yan, no? Okay, it's a very long process. So I'm going to share with you a worksheet na andito na yon, no? Para ano siya, yung para shortcut siya. So could you kindly unhide, guys? Click anywhere here in the tabs and then unhide. Unhide, tapos may completed dyan. Okay. So ito yung completed. So paki-aral na lang to, guys, no? Kindly study this. Kasi ito, guys, it's an automatic formula na. But in order for you to run this, kailangan muna, you have to go to File here, File, and then Options, File Options, and then, okay, Formulas dito. Make sure that this Enable Iterative Calculation is clicked. So if you check your Excel file, naka-click yan, guys, kasi clinic ko na yan. Pero ang default, guys, hindi naka-click yan. So make sure that it's clicked in order to make the model run. Okay? So let me show you, guys. Anong nangyari dito? Babaguhin ko yung long-term debt. Our long-term debt now is dependent on our counter here, no? So ang counter natin, either iteration is on or iteration is off. Pag ginawa ko tong 0, okay, hindi siya mag-a-iterate. Ang magiging formula natin ng long-term debt will be equal to the previous one. Okay, so deficit siya ng 49.34 yung kanina. No? Pag ginawa ko siyang 1, guys, 1, okay, ano nangyari? Yan. Nag-loop siya so that now our long-term debt is 477.67. Hindi siya yung 24.61. Ibig sabihin, nag-add tayo ng 53.06. Okay, so hindi na natin minanwal to, no? Automatically nag-loop na si Excel so that now equal na yung liabilities natin and shareholders equity. Okay, so this is the faster way to do it. Ito na yung may gumamit na tayo ng iteration. Okay, so nag-loop siya hanggang nakita niya na ang accumulated DFN, yung dagdag yung kanina 53.06. So pag ito na ngayon, guys, yung idagdag natin dito sa 426.41. So pakita ko lang, ha. So this is equal to ito yung initial, no? And then i-add natin tong 53.06. Okay, 477.67. Ito 'yon, no? Ito. So nag-balance na siya. Okay, kung ito yung long-term debt natin. Okay? So with that, guys, we end our discussion. Thank you so much for allowing me an extra 5 minutes. Okay? So I wish you the Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, guys. Please keep safe and enjoy the holidays with your family. Thank you so much. Magpapacheck ng attendance. Please remain. And then reminder, guys, yung deadline ng group quiz will be tonight at 11:59. Okay? So let me end the recording.